Hello fellow trainers! In this video we have Agility, Gallade, and Terra Fairy Mespirit dominating random battles. These Gen 4 Sinnoh Pokemon really pack a punch and have the hidden potential to really take over the battle. Let's take a look. Alright, let's get into the first battle as my opponent leads with the Scarlet and I lead with Minun. Able to outspeed, I go for the Thunderbolt, get some solid damage. They retire with the Poltergeist, do some huge damage to Minun. Next turn we go for another Thunderbolt, take out the Scarlet. My opponent's next Pokemon is the Crabominal as I'm able to outspeed, go for the Alluring Voice, get some huge damage, but it's not enough as I go down to the Ice Hammer. After the battle gets tied up, I go into my Magearna, I go for the Aura Sphere, take out Crabominal. We get that Soul Heart boost, but unfortunately we're not going to be able to do too much as they go into Smeargle, go for the Terra Ghost, outspeed, put me to sleep with the Spore. Not wanting my opponent to be able to set up anything, I go into my Gallade as they go for the Stealth Rock. The next turn Smeargle is able to outspeed, goes for that Ceaseless Edge, gets more hazards up as I go for the Night Slash, knock him all the way down to his Sash. At this point I start to realize Smeargle can't do too much as he goes for another Ceaseless Edge as I set up the Agility. Now able to outspeed, I go for one more Night Slash, take out Smeargle. After securing a nice lead, my opponent goes into the Spidops, as Gallade fires off the Psycho Cut, does about half as Spidops gets a little greedy, goes for the Sticky Webs. We then go for one more Psycho Cut, clean up the Spidops. Up next, my opponent reveals the Houndoom. Gallade's able to outspeed, take him out in one shot with the Sacred Sword. My opponent then reveals their last Pokemon, the Slowbro. Unfortunately, Gallade cannot secure the one-shot with the Night Slash as we finally go down to the Scald. Looking to clean things up, I go into Coma as we get stuck in all those hazards. Despite all this, it doesn't matter as we go for the Terra Normal Boom Blast, get some solid damage, but Slowbro just hangs on. Goes for the Future Sight, but then my opponent forfeits. Good game. Alrighty, let's get into the second battle as I lead with the Mespirit and my opponent goes with the Dragapult. On the first turn, I go for the aggressive Terra Fairy as they go for the U-turn and use it to pivot right into the King Gambit. As Mespirit fires up the Dazzling Gleam, gets some solid damage. My opponent then decides to switch again into the Florges as it tanks the Dazzling Gleam, no problem. Expecting the setup and being completely walled, I switch into my Salazzle as I go for the Calm Mind, get those boosts. On the next turn, my opponent goes for the Terra Ground as I'm able to outspeed and connect with the Fire Blast, get some good damage with the crit. As they fire off the Terra Blast, take out Salazzle in one shot. Down 1-0, I go back into the Mespirit, fire off the Ice Beam, but Florges just hangs on, goes for another Calm Mind. Not wanting to lose Florges, my opponent then goes into the Gargarnacle. As Mespirit fires off an Ice Beam, gets some solid damage. Not being able to do much, we pull another switch and go into the Flygon as Gargarnacle sets up the Stealth Rocks. Able to outspeed, Flygon goes for the Earthquake, takes out Gargarnacle. My opponent then reveals the Ditto who copies my Flygon. Expecting a Choice Scarf, we go into Scream Tail, but my opponent makes a great play, goes for the U-turn, and uses it to pivot into the King Gambit. With no switches, we decide to stay in with the Scream Tail, go for the Thunder Wave and paralyze King Gambit as they retaliate with the Iron Head and get that big damage on Scream Tail. Expecting to go down this turn, we decide to set up the Wish as they go for the Cowtail Cleave and Scream Tail just holds on. Now with the Wish set up, we decide to go for the Protect to get the Health Pack, but my opponent makes a great play, goes for the Sword Stance and gets those boosts. Unable to damage King Gambit, we decide to switch into Flygon as we thankfully get some Para Hacks. King Gambit then goes for the boosted Sucker Punch, but thankfully we get more Para Hacks as we go for the U-turn, use it to pivot into the Politoed and get that Rain going. King Gambit is then finally able to connect with the boosted Sucker Punch, but Politoed tanks that, retaliates with the Weather Ball, takes out King Gambit. My opponent then switches back into the ground Florges, outspeeds, goes for the Moonblast, takes out Politoed. Thankfully this isn't a problem as we go back into the star of the video, the Mespirit. Wanting to copy our strategy, my opponent goes into the Ditto, transforms into the Mespirit, who then takes about half from that Dazzling Gleam. Ditto then outspeeds, goes for the Psychic, but we tank that no problem as we clean him up with another Dazzling Gleam. My opponent then goes back into the Dragapult, fires off the Shadow Ball, Mespirit tanks that no problem, goes for the Dazzling Gleam, takes him out in one shot. My opponent then reveals their last Pokemon, their Regidrago. We're able to outspeed, clean him up in one Dazzling Gleam.
My opponent's last Pokemon is on the floor, just go for the Dazzling Gleam, take him out. Good game.